us together and get us started. I know that folks, I hope, will be joining in as we keep moving. This is our Minneapolis Area Synod Lunch and Learn. The Minneapolis Synod started these up over this last year. We are encouraging different topics, different starting points for you to engage. And so today we're talking about the different ways our racial justice work shows up, both for ourselves internally, the work, as well as for our communities together. And so I am Pastor Jen Collins. I use she, her pronouns. I am one of the synod staff. I am one of the assistants to the bishop. And within the role that I hold, I get to work with our racial justice ministries. And so I'm really excited for our conversation for today. It will be recorded. You'll also notice as I invite you in this space, we do have translation that is being offered. And so, in efforts of creating a wider, expansive space for all our individuals and persons and communities to join in, you'll notice that the pace in which we speak might be a little slower. I might have some more pauses. And that's because we have our wonderful interpreter, Marjorie, with us. And I give gratitude and thanks for her being with us. You'll also notice I'll be trying to pay attention to when she stops talking, since it's a conversation. We'll pause. And then the next speaker will be invited to start. So that was an example of how we'll kind of try to pace ourselves during this time. And so I'm going to put in the chat for everyone just a little bit of our agenda so you know kind of where we're heading. And so we're in the welcome spot of our time together, and I would love to invite us into a time of prayer, a time of spiritual grounding. And the prayer has been adapted from The Hills We Climb. Oops, I have this background on blur, so sorry if you can't see it. It's this little yellow book. It's the poem the inaugural poem for the country that Amanda Gorman, poet laureate, created. And I am reading as a prayer, adapted for our time, the last two stanzas. So let us pray in whichever prayer posture feels right for you. Creator, guide us to rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner of our country, our people, diverse. We emerge battered, but beautiful. God, when the day comes, may we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. New dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light. If only we're brave enough to see it, and if only we're brave enough to be it. Amen. I just really appreciate, especially as many of our congregations have been talking about salt and light in recent days, if you're following the lectionary in worship. And so may that be just nourishing for your soul And we're going to jump into introducing um, one. I see our bishop is on here, and so can I call you out and have you wave? And if you wanted to say a little hello.
Hello, I'm glad to be with you all today. And I just had a moment and said, I'm going to join this because I want to hear what you have to say. So thank you for being here, and I'm glad I can be here with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Bishop. We are now going to share an opportunity of introductions for those that are on this re-emerging, renewing effort for our racial justice ministries in our synod. And so I'm just going to call your name because I know you're all on the screen in different places. And just a note, if you want to change the view on your Zoom, you can click. There is now a multi-speaker option in your view, and that'll look more like a conversation. So whoever is speaking will show up on the top, and then everyone will still be able to be seen down below. Okay, I'm going to get us started with Pastor Ian.
Thank you, Pastor Jen. Yeah, my name is Ian Cohen Fry. I serve as the pastor at Gustavus Adolphus Lutheran in Northeast Minneapolis. I use pronouns like he, him, and his. I've been here at Northeast for about 2.5 years. And before that, I served at Faith Lutheran in Isanti for 3 years. And I am excited to be getting into this work, specifically with the racial justice liaisons and building connections in our synod. I also serve as the dean of the North Minneapolis Conference. And so I help to convene 11 congregations in our area as we seek to be a presence in this community. And it's a joy to be with you all here today.
Thanks, Pastor. I'm going to call on Sherry.
Hi, everyone. I'm here in South Minneapolis. I am a member at Calvary Lutheran, 39th in Chicago. I've been there since 2010, and I was a part of the Synod anti-racism team prior to 2020. 2020 was about the time that our racial justice liaisons stopped meeting. So I'm really excited to be together with people and to be doing this work together. So I'm bivocational. A lot of people think I'm a pastor, but I am not. Um, I'm bivocational. I help people buy and sell houses, and I dismantle white supremacy in the Lutheran Church. And I use she, her pronouns.
Thanks, Sherry. Pastor Esther.
Thank you, Pastor Jen. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And my name is Pastor Esther Cianipar. My pronouns are she, her, and I serve at Our Savior's Lutheran Church in South Minneapolis, Chicago Avenue. And yeah, and I look forward to having this conversation with you.
And I extend an invitation for you all in the chat as you're able to just share who's in the space. You can share your name, your congregation, city if you want, so we know geographically where you're all joining in from. I do want to say while you're doing that, or as you feel, as you're willing and able, we do have a couple other team members who weren't able to join us on our Lunch and Learn, and so I hope you'll get to meet them at other points. Both of them are actually teaching in different capacities right now, and so they're already out leading and guiding different things pertaining to this work. And so one of the persons is Dr. Kelly Sherman Conroy. So she is, as I mentioned, a professor at both Augsburg and St. Olaf. She also assists at All Nations Indian Church in Minneapolis, which is a kind of a partnership that we have with the ELCA and the UCC and our communities together. We do also have David Shearer. He also is on our team. He runs these cohorts right now, both for rostered leaders, pastors, and deacons, but also for lay members too. And so that's where he is leading a cohort right now for their Just Move culture. And so you can learn more about our team too on our Minneapolis Area Synod webpage. I'm going to put this in the chat. If you haven't been there before, we have a website where you can find all this information, contact, emails, information about events, kind of learn more too about what racial justice liaisons, the work the Synod has done, and join in. So we're going to have a conversation. So I hope that you'll engage think about questions. We're going to have a time towards the end of dedicated questions for you all. Oh, I didn't know the chat is disabled. Well, uh, I hope that you all then, as we share questions, maybe hopefully each of you have a question, then you can share your name out loud. Um, and it will be recorded, so if you're taking notes or want to connect this with a group in your own congregation too, please feel free to use the recording as like a devotional time or an activity for you to talk more intentionally as you engage around this conversation. But we are going to ask our panelists, our team members, so Pastor Ian, Pastor Esther, Sherry, if you would be willing to share what are some ways in which you engage in the internal work, and what are some ways you engage outwardly, externally in this work of racial justice?
I can go. Yeah. So again, I'm Sherry, and thanks for the distinction between that work, because holy Moses are people out doing things in Minneapolis right now. There's even memes about church 70-year-old church women driving Subaru Crosstreks. There's a lot happening, and it's collaborative, and it's beautiful. And ways our congregation is engaging in that work is we're sharing information about opportunities to support out in the community. We're showing up at events. We are, going on patrol and doing all of those things. We've also had a long-standing food shelf that really ramped up after George Floyd was murdered a block from our church. We went from serving 25 families a week to serving 175 families a week. So it's necessary for us to be collaborative and engage with the community. During this most recent time in our history, a lot of our clients are afraid to come to the food shelf. And so people, members and non-members alike, have volunteered to drive the food to people's places, to people's homes. So all of that work is great, but it's different from doing the internal work, right? So some of the internal work, that we're embarking on now is we're going to do a study of this book. Oh, it's all distorted. See Me, Believe Me, a guide to deepen allyship with congregational leaders of color. Now, no one in the ELCA can say they don't have a leader of color in their church, right? Because we have a presiding bishop and we have a secretary that are both African American. So part of the work, what I think of as the internal work is not only, well, along with dismantling white supremacy out of ourselves, it's also just very simply decreasing harm to people of color that are in our congregations and in our church and in the world. So we're lucky enough to have a person of color as our pastor. So it seems sort of doubly important for us to do this work. And I have contractors here just started making noise. I don't know if you can hear it. Okay, good. I sure can. So we are starting this study. This is going to be what we're doing during Lent, and really learning from Reverend Dr. Yolanda Denson Byers. She poured her heart into this book. So we're gonna take what she gave us and study it and learn how we can be better stewards, how we can take care of our pastor and our fellow BIPOC siblings in the church.
Sherry, Pastor Ian, Pastor Esther.
Yeah, thank you, Sherry, for sharing that. I will share some of the internal work that we're doing at the congregation I serve. We just read this book, Ashes to Action, which Sherry, I believe you wrote. Oh my goodness. And I believe you even joined us after worship on Sunday to talk to our congregation about this book. And I would encourage any congregation in this area to reach out to Sherry to read this book about finding yourself at the intersection of the Minneapolis uprising. Talk about a gift that we have within our synod to have gifted writers like Sherry, like Pastor Yolanda, folks who are doing this great work that is necessary with education internal, but also looking outward. Something that the congregation I serve, Gustavus Adolphus, has really been leaning into recently is finding the ways that individuals in our congregation are engaged and then empowering them and connecting them. Maybe you have noticed it in your own congregations that this person is doing grocery runs, this person is driving other folks, but we don't actually know about this shared work that we're doing together. And so I would encourage you to connect with other leaders in your congregation, be they lay leaders, be they pastors or deacons, and try to figure out a way that you can really connect and know that you're in this work together. From our experience here at Gustavus, it's really been a time of mutual encouragement and affirmation that this work is hard and yet we're not in it alone. And that there is this real faith connection to it all. That is what is grounding us and leading us. Some other things that we've been doing externally with our congregation is facilitating use of space, especially with the recent focuses of the immigration enforcement. We have tenants in our building who are Somali American folks. And in fact, we have an autism clinic in our congregation. So there's been a lot of focus on the identities of people who use our space. And so as a congregation, we've been doing a lot of education internally so that we can externally show welcome through everything that we do to people who are in our space. Beyond that, as far as external things, I mentioned that I'm the dean of our conference. And so when we have folks who come in or who reach out needing help or support, we've been really trying to work as a conference to share the resources that we have. For example, Pastor Jeff at Gethsemane does amazing work with food. And so when people come and say, we have food insecurity, we need food, I know exactly where we can send them to a trusted colleague who is doing great work and has food to share and abundance, right? Like living out the abundance that we have. Additionally, with those connections, those have also spurred other ways of engaging as congregations, as we realize that not only in this work of racial justice, in seeking to provide health, safety, other things for our neighbors, we can also do other aspects of ministry together too. And there's some exciting opportunities for that. Just the final thing, thinking about this external and internal work, that I've been really leaning into is empowering lay leaders to do it and to take the lead. Not that I am not capable or don't want to, but realizing that my place here is a facilitator. And so if you feel as a lay leader like passion, bring that to your the staff, the rostered leaders at your church or the congregation you're a part of. And my guess, my hope, right, is that they will be excited that you have this desire and will try to work to facilitate it, whether it be with space, whatever resources the church have. I think from my experience with other rostered leaders, we are good at facilitating. We can get a coffee pot out and get people into a place and make that space for things to happen. So I definitely encourage you, if you feel a passion, lean into that, name it, and there will be folks within your congregation, within the synod, who will work to make that a reality.
Um, Hi again. So, I've been with Our Savior's Lutheran Church for 2.5 years. It's my first call, but it's not my first vocation. Before I was working in Jakarta, Indonesia, where I'm originally from. But I also lived in the US on and off. I grew up in the US in Ohio. I came the first time to the United States when in the middle of my fifth grade with no English. And I went to a public school and took English language courses in the afternoon. And in the morning, I attended the regular classes. And I've been a Lutheran in Indonesia. We have actually one of the biggest Lutheran um, church members in Asia, in Indonesia. So a German missionary came to Indonesia. And then, so we're from a tribe group called Bataks, Batak. So I'm a Batak. And so then I went to school all the way from middle school, elementary, middle school, and high school in Athens, Ohio. My dad was doing school there in Ohio University. Then I went to Wittenberg University in Springfield, Ohio. Then I went home to Indonesia. I returned back to Athens for my graduate school. And then I was at Arizona State University. And then I went home. And I thought when I went home at that time in 2005, 4, it was for good. But no, God had different plans for me, and I'm here now with you all. So I did my um, theology school, went back to school in the mid of my 40 years for 6 years, got my MDiv, my THM at Luther Seminary, and now I have a call. And now my experience, because I have all this variety of diverse experiences, help me as I am in this space at Minneapolis with predominantly white congregation, but very active, very vocal, and justice oriented. And I'm so proud of that. And in a neighborhood where it's like thriving. I don't know if you know about Phillips neighborhood. It has a lot of immigrants, but a lot of people, white people living here for a long time, but immigrants coming in and out. Uh, so when they're here, they're kind of like thriving, and then when they're like settled, then they'll move to other cities like Brooklyn Park or somewhere else, and then it's just like a cycle in Phillips neighborhood. So encampments also live here. So internally in our church, we We are doing great work. We're RIC congregation. We're about to expand our RIC welcome statement, and I will be leading that process with the congregation, with Pastor Javen and Pastor Obi Bellinger, and just more people in the group. And we're also tending to our church neighbors. We are deeply connected with All Nations Indian Church, where Dr. Kelly Sherman Conroy and Pastor Joanne Conroy serve, and Pastor Gerald Osordo, St. Paul San Pablo Lutheran Church. So as we do these deepening partnerships internally, there are also some learning edges where I'm noticing that white majority, I'm not saying all, but majority of white people are so wonderfully stepping up and present with each other, doing demonstration or protest. Being out there is great, but when it comes to working together like face to face, they don't know what to do. It's like, it's kind of hard. Like, oh, I want my agenda. This is what we need to do. Or we're starting at this time, or we're ending at this time. Or, like a solution oriented, or like, just don't know what to do. And then it becomes defensive when we do tell them, well, that's not how we do it for people of culture, people of color. So those learning edges just continue to be acknowledged, but also to have those conversations. And I experienced that myself from my own congregation. So, and now I have a support team because I can't do this alone. I need allies, but I need a support team where I am in a safe and brave space to share what happened, or also to say, hey, did you think that was racism, or am I just like thinking this too much? And 100% they said, oh, Esther, that was racism. Yeah, sorry about that. Or, just those, we need that space as a leader, as your pastor. If you have a pastor of culture, a pastor of color, or if you have a member, or if you have, yeah, somebody in that vulnerable space. But at the same time, I'm told that we have this power and authority as a pastor, right? In the pulpit, this is your church. As a pastor, you have that power and authority. And I'm trying to own that, but it's kind of hard as a leader of color. Maybe it's easy. Maybe it's like it's confirmed for leader of standard white person, but I'm still in that process. And I acknowledge that. And externally, um, during since my call, I've been to encampments and just learning about how they live. Why are they there? Why are they there? And how can we as a pastor to accompany that? And then learning about our neighbors, talking, listening. So we just been awarded humbly by Lilly Endowment. It's a 5-year grant where our saviors, will be working together with All Nations, San Pablo, St. Paul Lutheran Church, based on my listening of how we can do faith formation or create faith formation practices for children and the children's community. So not 0 to 12, beyond the standard Sunday morning of a Lutheran church. So that's what we're doing. And allowing our leaders of color to own that space and to make that it's not a top-down partnership. It's not a top-down arrangement, but it's really truly a partnership. and partnership where we are pivoting, and we're okay to pivot. Then that's also I serve donuts at our bus stop on Wednesday mornings. Now I'm in the narthex because of safety reason, by myself, but we also have at our church. We have English Learning Center where mostly immigrant students come here. And now there are only few, but so I serve donuts in the narthex. And that's really great. If you are able to serve donuts around your area of the church, you will learn what the city's about. Not like even like if you have there's like a bus transportation stop, metro bus, like you will know who comes in and out. So I had regulars. Now in the narthex, I also it's our regular students, our Muslim students are getting some coffee and having this conversation and just being genuinely, you know, that we're there, no expectation, not promoting, oh, this is our Savior's Lutheran Church, we're doing this, nothing like that. It's really just, hey, here's some donuts and some coffee. Yeah, you take if you like. And so that's what and we also work with our partners. We just got the recently awarded the ELCA a World Hunger local grant, domestic grant. We'll be working and serving more meals, breakfast meals with our Saviors Community Shelter and deepening our relationship with GMCC. It's a local nonprofit, Greater Minneapolis Council of Churches. They've been here for about 150 years or more. They're on Lake Street. They're also in crisis. So how do we come together around food, ministry, and share stories? And I think stories are really important. Yeah, that's some of the things that we do. And our lead pastor currently, Martha Bardwell, is in Washington, D.C. with other interfaith leaders advocating to stop funding to ICE. Since today they're going to vote on the budget uh, in Congress. So we are very active. Well, publicly, internally, but also internal self, like ourselves, like for predominantly white church. How do we how do we how do we be together without judgment or without assumption, without just be together and leave those assumption other places.
Thanks so very much, Pastor Esther. Um, I'm going to jump in with my own reflection as well. I I really appreciate the journey that I've been on internally. I think about all of us in this space, and we all have different lived experiences. I saw in the chat some of you have been on civil rights pilgrimage. Some of you have helped us write and develop the messages that we have with our ELCA, like the repudiation of the doctrine of discovery. Like, I love all the different ways that we are called into thinking about how we create vibrant, thriving places to live. And when I think about my personal why I do this, and it is very personal because of who I am, of my family that my husband and I have created. We have three beautiful little girls. um, and they are multi-ethnic. We actually have been tossing around what words they can figure out how to use to identify when they're sharing about their culture and ethnicity. And my 10-year-old was like, so am I Afro-Latin? Am I Blatin? Who am I? um, in our family because I myself identify as Latina. I grew up in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I also consider myself multi-ethnic, multicultural as well, because I have that framework of also having white identity, European descent, and so just the wrestling of cultures in my household and how I was raised. And so I hold these privileges also. Because as I've moved and navigated, although I identify strongly and deeply, and I love my Latin culture, that was the predominant only because of our life situation too, where both of my mom's parents had already passed away, and she really adopted actually our Latin culture more fully. And so, this really unique experience growing up. I love the different identifiers of my grandma, who went to three different denominations. And she was like my like put a fire under you, you better get to church and you better stay connected to God kind of person. Um, and an anchor to why I feel like this call to ministry really led me to where I'm at. And I'm so grateful that, much like Pastor Esther, you shared, finding myself in the ELCA was not necessarily where I imagined, especially as a pastor. And yet there's such a gift in that. That I have learned from all the work, also moving to Minnesota. I've now been here 15 years, so I am finding I have almost lived here equally as long as I have lived in Albuquerque, which is just like kind of crazy to me. Um, but learning all the dynamics that build up who we are and the internal work, I have sat at so many feet of so many amazing leaders that have come before me that I will get to have shared leadership with and walk alongside. Um, One of the books that I bring up is, let's see here, called Allyship. I love how each one of us shared a different one. But this one specifically, I love, lifts up a variety of voices across our whole entire larger church. And regardless of where you are at in your journey, whether you've been engaged in justice work for many, many years, or you're just getting your feet wet and like are activated and like, what in the world? I feel this, like my heart's on fire that I have to move and do something, but still figuring it out. Um, and there's grace for wherever we're at. And I love that it's community that has been my life-giving, lifesaver part through this whole journey. And so for me, that's where the internal work of all the listening and awareness, like I've done IDI work, the intercultural development inventory. It's a tool that you can use to see where you are, your mindset, a bunch across a bunch of culture, right? And culture, not just ethnicity and race, but about age and gender and ability and all the things that make us who we are. And in that, one of the things that surprised me in my internal journey is you think of yourself as moving forward and continuing to make progression. The interesting thing I found at one moment in my journey in my life is that when I was doing this work, I retook the inventory because you can do that to see where you're at. It's a practice, it's a tool that can be used so you can, like a muscle, you practice and it's never ends. I like that the arrow is just a never-ending arrow of progress, of journey where you're going. Never did I think mine would go backwards. I found that really interesting. And when I sat with that and thought about why in the world I was over here and I was doing really well, why would it go backwards? And at that moment in time, I had just had a really hard end to a call for a variety of reasons. I also, George Floyd had been murdered. We were in a pandemic. I had just actually, the week of George Floyd's murdering, also gave birth to my second child. There were so many compounding traumas going into my life that it made sense that I was trying to survive, that I was focused on trying to find spaces that kept me going at really hard moments in time. Right now is a time of crisis as well. And so we find ourselves, whether we know it or not, going back to places of comfort, places of security. And so that's one of the unique things I have learned is I had to relearn how to heal, relearn how to come out of this. Like, how do I do that when we're in a season that feels so heavy? And family was a huge part of it. The internal work of healing, like I had spiritual direction. I found really great cohorts of other leaders, other neighbors, other people. Community was a hope. And I feel like that's what I'm seeing right now, which is so great, is the mixture of that internal and external work. Community has been a huge part. And I do have another plug for another book. This is called Community by Peter Block. I don't know if any of you have ever read it. If you've been through the Minneapolis Area Synod, you might have been connected to faith practices and neighboring practices. That was also another beautiful gift at the time when I was serving a parish, and it continues to be the work in our synod too, of connecting, connecting as a small cohort to think about and imagine how do we deepen our connection with our neighbors. And community has been the word that just constantly, in all of these times, and through all of these years, the deepening of relationships, the deepening of community, the deepening work of shared leadership with your pastors or your deacons, with your synod staff, with your conferences. Like, I love the beautiful image to be able to dream of what does that look like for our synod? What does that look like when we are church together? I think those are gifts that we get to continue to build. And that's why it's exciting for me right now of wherever you're at, this renewed energy we're having. And I'm so grateful we have Bishop Jen and this opportunity for us to reimagine. I like using the word re-time, R-E, because there's so many words that allow us to dream that begin with R-E. Reimagine, redevelop, realign, reconnect. Like just all those things. Those are my just kind of hopes in this work, where I'm continuing to find energy. Um, I think that's our sharing time, at least of introductions from this team that has formed. Um, and we're beginning to do gatherings, quarterly gatherings. So that's an invitation for you all to join us. Our next one is April 28th. But before we get into like other announcements or things, we're going to open up our time for if there's any questions that you have for folks that are here, or even just open like whole group like wonderings that you have. So I'm going to open it up for all of you. Please feel free to unmute yourself and ask away.
Hi, I am Kirsten Kessel. I'm a retired deacon. I'm currently at Valley of Peace in Golden Valley. Yeah, hi, Barb. Yes, Pastor Esther, you said a couple of things that sparked my imagination. I recently read a book that I've been telling everybody about. It's by Cindy Lee, who is a Thai American theologian, professor, and it's called Our Unforming, De-Westernizing Our Spirituality. And you talked about the internal work. others of you mentioned the internal work too. But I have found that one to be really helpful because it approaches um, the Western, well, it has a lot of themes, but um, it starts with Western linear thought compared to and not it's not a comparison as this one's good, this one's bad, but it's looking at differences. And the cyclical thought of non-Western spirituality. And it's just been very helpful for me to think differently. I've done mission work or accompaniment work, let's say, with congregations in Africa, Tanzania, and Nigeria. And my people, my teams would joke about African time, and th- no, they do it differently. That's not the way they do it, and that's such a hard construct for people to figure out, or European, Northern European in particular, en- enculturated people. Um, I'm trying to think of the best ways to say all this, but I highly recommend that book for the internal work, um, not just for yourself, but to have conversations with other people. So it's our unforming, de-Westernizing our spirituality or spiritual formation. That one is a really good one. But I also wanted to ask, um, you who've been doing other internal work, are there other recommendations for that in particular to rethink our approach to the world and life?
Hi, Kirsten. Good to see you. And
Good.
Barbara.
Yeah.
Um, I I I don't know if you know Rachel Moynihan.
Mm-hmm.
She does somatic work. I encourage you to invite her to your church. Um,
Okay.
what she does is different than IDI. It's really looking into your body, where things that are hard or not sit well when it comes to approaching or working with people of culture, groups, people of color. And it's not like a one-time thing. She's really good in negotiating her time, but and it's intergenerational too. So if you have young children and an adult, to work on some of these somatic works or anti-racism. But it's what I like about her. This is what I've been doing. Well, just started, is that when your church have a plan or going to a community that's different, that's not like a regular partnership, or it's different than you, different
Mm-hmm.
style, different culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it'll be great to have Rachel to come before and prepare your bodies. And then when you're in that community, you're gathered, and there are things that don't sit well, or like don't express that in that gathering, then invite again, and then Rachel will come again after that gathering, post event, to your church and unpack those things that you're feeling. Why are they happening in your body? Which part of the body that happened? And so I think I love books, but there are a lot of books, but I like how she uh, embody this, because for folks who are folks of color, folks of culture, is that it's embodying us, It's not like we can just take off our jacket and then be okay, but it's in us. I mean, we've been experiencing racism, injustice, trauma, being poor economically, mentally, and just being in a space that it's already like there's this assumption. So now, how do we do that? How do we intentionally for white folks to be able to say, okay, I want to work on this in my body. So I think that's a good step to start that way. Like if you're going to serve a meal, or if you're going to go somewhere, everybody's like ready. Oh, yes, we're ready. But you're really not ready
Right.
as you are being with them.
Yeah.
So it's good to have Rachel Moynihan to come and share with you. But also, um, there's also a practice. I attended. I did a training, King in Nonviolence, with Pastor Martha, my colleague,
Okay.
and a great introduction. Like, how do we, in a room where you don't know anyone? So the pair introduction. So this is a practice that's so hard to do, that is hard for us to do. So there were 5 questions. And so 5 question is, what's your name? What's your favorite childhood game? If you have $1 million, what would you do? And what would be your dream vacation? And the last question is, why are you here? Then you exchange that, right? Why are you here? The last question.
Mhm.
And then when you share with each other, is that you are talking about that person, but you are talking as if you are the other person. But when people hear you, you listen to the person that is actually talking about. Does that make sense? So it's
Yeah.
a listening process that we tend not to do. Well, maybe like we just jump into conclusion, right? So, for example, myself with Ian. So I know Ian's 5 questions. So I'm gonna share. I'm Ian. Da, 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 but your eyes, your ears are looking at Ian, not me. So that's sort of the practice of nonviolence, of how we listen to other people. Now that's a pair group. That's a pair, like 1 to 1. Now what if it's like 1 to 4 people, like a group, right? So you listen to the other person while you're talking, like you're not that person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Look at
Yeah,
all
small
those
steps,
resources
Kristen,
out there
but
too.
I know
yeah.
I dropped a bunch in our chat, so please
Yes.
take a look. Many of them are all on our website too at the
Okay.
Synod. I'm going to let Sherry jump in because I think you were going to add something too.
Yeah, I was just going to add something that's been really helpful to me over the years is this characteristics of white supremacy culture. And if you Google that, it'll pop right up. It's a website now, and for me, it just really helped put a handle on things and understand how white supremacy functions. And I've used this tool in a variety of groups, stuff other people have led, stuff that I have led, and find it to be really helpful to focus on one at a time and like, okay, how does that live in me? And what are some antidotes to it? So I recommend, I strongly recommend that one. I found it just invaluable to understand what's happening. Because
Right.
even though I have love in my heart, I got racism in my history.
Right.
So you know, I need some help to get it out.
Right. Thank you.
Well, and thank you to all of you. I know the hour flies by, but these are just like, just get your toes wet, start to connect with people. So I just want to say thank you for all of those who joined in, for our panelists, our team members. Thank you so very much. For our interpreter, thank you so very much, Marjorie. I hope you go in peace. And I did put in the chat if you want to just hang on for a bit. I'll keep it open so you can look at all the information. But please reach out to. I'll put our page again. It has all our emails on it, so you can reach out to any one of us who are on this panel today. But be well and take care of yourself. And yeah, peace be with you.
Peace be with you all. Thank you.